do upcoming events? Yay!
Yes.
If you want to do upcoming events, and then I'll admit people.
Yeah, welcome everybody. We are once again doing something just about every day of the week. Today, obviously, we're doing our Overgeneralization bite-sized program, and tomorrow at 11, we'll have our support group. And next week on Monday, every Monday at 1 o'clock, we're doing a Stress Less with James L. West. So 30 minutes time to get together and just learn about a stress management technique and practice it. We also have our Ask the Experts on Facebook Live every Monday around 4-ish, give or take a few minutes. On Tuesday at 11, we're doing communication in the mid stages of the disease. This Tuesday we did early stages. Next week we'll do middle stages. And then in a week after that, or we're skipping a week, and the week after that, we're going to do the late stages. And of course, continuing our Change Your Thinking series, next Thursday, we're going to dive deep into mental filters. And then our support groups on Wednesday and Friday next week as well. So we hope you join us. You will get a copy of their November programs coming up. Those are going out this week, so you have those. You can start adding them to your calendar and registering for those as you want.
Great.
Thank you.
And one of our first things in November, because the Wednesday falls really early, so it'll be November 4th will be our Lunch and Learn, and we'll do our Fewer Holiday Hassles program, where we really talk about how the holidays will be different this year. And it's a program that we do every year in November, and we try, I think we were going to offer it a couple of times, but it is our Lunch and Learn for November. And it's got gift ideas for what to get somebody with dementia at the holidays. And then we really talk about also what it will be like for us, whether our loved one is at home or whether they are placed. So great program. Been doing it for years and just modify it and change it up a little bit every year. So today we are talking about overgeneralization, and I was glad that Jamie and I kind of take turns doing these, because this one is the one that I tend to do the most. We did labeling last week. We talked about labeling, changing our thinking. So this one, though, is so interesting because I think everybody does it. You may not realize that it has a name, but that everybody does this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It actually has some pretty entertaining slides I was able to find on this. There's actually a lot out there whenever you look up what in counseling we call twisted thinking. All right, you can see it, Jamie? Okay. So this slide we've been using each week about just distortions in our thinking, about having negative thoughts or negative feelings. We all do this. Do you lean toward being an optimist or lean toward being a pessimist? Do you see the glass as half full or half empty? We've also been talking a lot about this during the support groups this month. I've been focusing on positive thoughts, positive self-talk, and trying to use the whole month, kind of having a theme. But we all, at one time or another, have some type of a distorted, twisted, or negative thoughts. And they can be, especially whenever we are a caregiver of somebody with dementia, we can kind of get stuck in a rut with that, and then it rolls over and it starts to affect every area of our life. So if we reinforce the thoughts, or we continue to have these thoughts without challenging them, we can then add to our anxiety, our depression. We can start having poor performance in other areas of our lives, difficulties in relationships with other people, and it can cause additional stress. So this one also, distorted thoughts can turn our perceptions they can become one-sided. They're almost always inaccurate, unfair, false, and bitter. And then this other side, these distorted thoughts patterns can cause, again, depression, anxiety, self-criticism, that negative self-talk, which leads to low self-esteem, which can really lead to hopelessness. And we'll be sending you these slides and the recording later today. So what is overgeneralization? Just that term. When we use, it's when we use this overly broad language in our evaluations of events or people. And it has some key words like always, never, everybody, nobody. So you'll start picking up on, and you'll hear yourself. And as we go through some of these examples, I bet you'll even be able to think about some things that you may have already said today, or if you didn't say it, you may have already thought today. Especially that word always and never. We can really get hung up on always and never. But this type of thinking and language matters because once you say something always happens to you, you start responding to the pattern of events instead of just the one event that's just happened. Because it actually creates anger. We're going to talk more about anger. According to the Psychology Dictionary, the definition of overgeneralization is a mental skewing wherein a person sees a sole occurrence as an invariable rule, so that, for instance, failure at attaining one job will predict an ongoing trend of defeat in all jobs. I didn't get that job, I'm never going to get a job. That type of thinking is overgeneralization. I love this one. All cats have 4 legs. I have 4 legs, therefore I am a cat. That is overgeneralization, that type of thinking. It made me think of things that we say to ourselves like, and I've got one coming up that's similar to this. Well, my grandmother was overweight, my mom was overweight, my aunts are overweight, so I'm just going to be overweight. It just is what it is. That's overgeneralization. Here's another one. Since I overate at the last party I went to, I know I'll overeat at every party I go to this holiday season. It's almost like we're setting ourselves up for failure. Our expectations are changing because of our self-talk. Here's another one. I know several bald musicians. Bald men must be musically talented. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with it, but that's another example of an overgeneralization. My mother, sister, and girlfriend diet all the time. Women are always on a diet. Now, I know, I know that we are pretty bad about saying stuff like this, especially when it comes to either men or women. Men always, women always, men never, women never. That's overgeneralization. So imagine this situation. You're on your way to an important meeting. There's a group of people walking slowly in front of you in the hallway. It's frustrating, and you say, "Why does everyone walk so slowly?" This actually will contribute to you becoming even more angry because now you're not just frustrated by this small group of people, you're frustrated at everybody. You're upset. So here's some more of those words. Always, never, all of them, none of them, everybody, nobody, all of the time, none of the time. So you can see where it's those extremes on either end. The dangers of overgeneralization, and I found a lot of this on a psychology site that I look at a lot on Psychology Today. It's also a magazine that comes out. One of the dangers of overgeneralization, the tendency to use overgeneralization makes us angrier than when we use more realistic and accurate language. So this is going to have a lot to do with, and these other, twisted thinking we've talked about, kind of a cognitive behavior therapy where we intentionally change our self-talk. And that's what a lot of overgeneralization is. It's intentionally changing just those couple of words that are in that sentence. That's not correct. People who overgeneralize tend to get angrier with others. They express that anger in less healthy ways, and they suffer greater consequences as a result of their anger. So if you think about when you're angry, what might be some, as this says, less healthy, what are some things that we might do that aren't healthy because we're angry? Well, I'm mad, so I'm going to eat the whole pizza. I'm going to drink the entire bottle of wine. I think I will have that extra piece of cake or cookie. Or I am just going to sit here and watch 4 hours of TV tonight of stuff that is going to get in my head, and then I'm not going to be able to sleep because I'm mad or because I'm angry. Here's another example of a bad review. Here's your review. You suck. There's nothing good about you. Everything is bad. Overgeneralization. All right, so I've got this. You know what I didn't do though, Jamie, is I didn't share with sound.
Oh.
So I'm going to have to stop sharing and then share again. Share with computer sound. And this is, I think it's 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and it has some more great examples. If you will, just let me know if you can hear it, Jamie.
Welcome to Lesson 2 of the free Anxiety Relief course. In this lesson, you'll learn the second cognitive distortion. It's called overgeneralization. Overgeneralization is kind of like having a bird poop on your car and then saying, "Why is it always my car that gets pooped on?" One negative event happens, and you see it as a never-ending pattern of defeat. It's kind of like all or nothing thinking, but all or nothing is when you define yourself as a success or a failure. Overgeneralization is more like dropping ice cream on your shirt and saying, "Ugh, I always get ice cream on my shirt." You make one mistake and think, "I always make this mistake." Or you can overgeneralize the future with thoughts like, "I'll never get a girlfriend." Do you see why that's a cognitive distortion? The event only happened once, but you think as if it's happened over and over, and it will keep happening for the rest of your life. This is what the world looks like through the glasses of overgeneralization. The key to overcoming it is to recognize that among the negative events, there are many positive events as well. Do you want to see some examples? Susie notices a typo in her report after she turns it in. She says, "I never do anything right." It's almost impossible to have never done anything right. Susie tied her shoes correctly earlier that morning. What should she think instead? One thing she could say is, "I made one mistake, but I did 7 or 8 things correctly." This is a more rational, objective response, and it'll make Susie feel a lot better than saying she's never done anything right. Even if Susie made 7 or 8 mistakes and only did one thing right, the phrase, "I never do anything right," is still false. Let's do one more example. Gary is late for work and thinks, "I'm never on time for anything. I'm such a screw-up." This is actually 2 cognitive distortions in one. Can you tell which part is overgeneralization and which is all or nothing thinking? The sentence, "I'm never on time for anything," is overgeneralization because it implies a repeating pattern of defeat. And "I'm such a screw-up" is all or nothing thinking because Gary is using one mistake to define himself as a total failure. What should Gary think instead? Pause the video and leave a comment with your answer. There's more than one correct answer, but here's what I came up with. I'm not always late, and just because I'm late today, it doesn't define me as a person. If I'm late more often than I'd like to be, I should work on that and become more timely. By thinking this way, Gary will feel less anxious about being late and motivated to improve in the future. So when you catch yourself overgeneralizing, just remember that one event doesn't represent a repeating pattern. The world is complex, and we use overgeneralization because it makes the world a little easier to understand. The next cognitive distortion you'll learn is called mental filter. You're nearly 25% finished with the course. Stick with it. The link to the...
Back up. So that gave some more really good examples of overgeneralization. And when we think about them, because I saw some of you smiling, they're silly when we think about it. Because I was thinking about that report that he gave the example on. Here, let's say, I know I just proofread a report my nephew did, and it was 12 pages for his English 101 in college. And I found maybe 6 typo errors that weren't caught. And he did something similar to that. I went, you had 12 pages that were perfect. You had 6 where you were missing a comma or something. Because he was saying things like, I'm going to have to redo the entire thing. No, you're not. I've already fixed those 6 errors. To beat ourselves up over stuff that really isn't what we're saying it is. So we have the power to change our thoughts. And we've been using this each week. So thoughts are what we tell ourselves, influences our emotions and our beliefs. And then our emotion and our beliefs are what we feel and believe. They influence our actions and our behaviors and our decisions. And then how we act influence our thoughts and our beliefs. And it's a circle. And that's why we can get caught in it, good and bad. We can get caught in this circle. So change your thinking, overgeneralization, the behavior, reaction, circumstance, incident, or trait is the problem. You, the person, or the person who is thinking this way is not the problem. So can you think of a situation where you have overgeneralized? That's easy to say, in the past, or something that you may say. Does anything come to anybody's mind that you may use with those always and never?
Holly, I've caught myself just with COVID-19 happening, like this is never going to end.
Perfect.
This is not getting better. This will never be better. Yeah, one of those.
That's a great one. This is never going to end. I can remember thinking, we're never coming back to work. Never. We will always have to, and those are overgeneralizations. First of all, we can't see the future. And that's where you then go with your thought is, do I know that for a fact? So we've got on here thoughts, emotions, behaviors, consequences. So the first thing that you want to do is to challenge the thought. You ask yourself that question. Now, is that reality? Do I know that for a fact? That's real. We're never going back to work. This will never be better. No, we don't know that. So you choose a new thought without the overgeneralization in it. And then you objectively, without bias or with detachment, think about the behavior or the circumstance, just the facts. So you keep it down to things that are facts. So here are the steps in changing our thinking. Think through the accuracy of the statement. When you catch yourself using words like always or never, stop yourself and ask if those words are accurate. Has your spouse really never surprised you with a gift before? Does the fast food place always mess up your order? If those words are accurate, then by all means, get angry and do something about it. If every single time you go through Taco Bell, it's the wrong order, call them up, give them a piece of your mind. But was it just this one time? Or did it happen this time and it happened 6 months ago? And so we say, they always mess my order up, because that's where we tend to go with it. So you replace the overly broad language with something more realistic. Once you realize that your husband does not always forget to flush the toilet, and you replace that language with something more accurate. Even a subtle shift from he always forgets to he often forgets can lead to a change in anger. And it may be that he every once in a while he forgets. It makes me angry, but it isn't all, because you literally ask yourself, does every single time he goes to the bathroom he forgets to no, it just seems that way to me, because it seems like I'm the one who comes in behind it. So then you say he occasionally forgets, and you don't minimize the pattern, because sometimes there really is something legitimate to address. For example, if your spouse routinely cancels your dinner plans at the last minute, it's completely reasonable to acknowledge that pattern and respond with frustration. So this isn't to downplay if it is something that it's legitimate to get upset about or to get frustrated about. It's just saying that normally it isn't every time. So here's kind of a diagram of what overgeneralization looks like. You conclude that what happened to you once will occur over and over again. And I thought this just really, because you see there on the left, future opportunities will be the same as, or they will happen again, that past experience, which leads to the future relationship will happen again. It will be the same. Future career, it will happen again. It will be the same. So this was an example, and I had already put this example on here when I found that video, and it happened to be about, I always catch every red light on my way to work. When I'm running late, I always catch every red light. Well, is that really true? First of all, did I even catch every single red light? Or did I catch the last two? And I'm the one running late. So my thoughts are, every time I'm running late, this happens to me, I'm going to get fired. So now I'm catastrophizing it. So you stop and think, well, how often am I running late? Why am I running late? Do I maybe need to get up earlier? Could this maybe have something to do with my behavior? Because it's easier to get mad at the red lights than to get, I might need to get up earlier. It's way easier. Those stupid lights. So the feelings could be sadness, depression, bitterness, detachment, low self-esteem, anxiety. I'm coming into work with these feelings, and this is how I'm starting my day. Where we could, if we use the positive self-talk, have more self-confidence, creativity, acceptance, and happiness. So the consequences would be, I'm going into work in a bad mood. I'm snapping at people as I walk in the door. I might have a chip on my shoulder all day long and continue with negative self-talk throughout the day that is then going to roll over when I come home. And I may even say, well, to start it off this morning, I hit every red light and I was running late. So you come up with a plan ahead of time. You address the situation at work if necessary, and you don't let it happen again. Maybe you have been late 3 times this week and it's Wednesday. And you may need to go in and address that and own it instead of, well, I caught all the red lights. There was a train. I had a flat tire. I need to get up a little bit earlier. I don't need that second cup of coffee, or I'll have that in the car on the way, whatever. And you own the reality of it, and you get down to the root of the problem. So when you change your thoughts, you change how you feel, and then that changes your actions. So keeping in mind, and again, I think this is a series of 10, isn't it, Jamie? There's a lot of these. I think it's a series of 10 that are actual distorted thoughts and distorted thinking patterns that most of us have a little bit of each of them, or we've at least done them before, that it's a process and that your goal is just to progress and get a little bit better with it. We had, those of you who were on a little bit early heard us as we were going back and forth, and it came out of my mouth something along the lines of, the video wasn't working. This always happens every time I've got a video. Oh, no, it doesn't. It does not always happen every time I've got a video. And that's what it's about, is catching yourself when you do it. Or I know what it was. I said, I need Jamie to fix this for me because I am just dumb when it comes to this computer stuff. No, I'm not. I've managed to figure it out. I can get it going. I'm not as great at it as she is, but I'm not dumb about it, and I'm not stupid, and I'm not ignorant. But I tend to start using those words, but catching it and correcting it and saying, it happened this time, but the last 12 we've done, it didn't happen. And it'll happen again. And that's okay. It's okay. It takes discipline and time to change our thought patterns, because usually it's something we've been doing for a long time. They're habits. A mistake is a proof of progression because you catch it. And living in the present, we can't go back and change the past or predict the future. Like I just did that. I said it will happen again because it likely will, but I don't know that it will. We have the power to control our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and we don't go through this alone. So talking to trusted people who can help us see different perspectives and challenge distorted thought patterns without us getting upset with them. So if you mentioned this to somebody along the lines of, do I talk that way? Do I say those kind of things? And if they say to you, well, yes, mom, dad, brother, sister, that's exactly how you talk, to not get offended. Go, okay, I thought maybe, I got to work on that. Great. That leaves us time for does anybody have any questions, or do you recognize this in yourself? Does anybody have, I know we've got examples. Does anybody have one that you'd like to share? All right. Well, if not, like I said, we'll get you these slides. We will send you this recording. And next week we'll be doing mental filter. Isn't that what it is, Jamie?
Mental filter.
Mental filter. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.